Love it.
Entrepreneurial activity is now taking place nationwide. We're going to prove it today on Builders Live. Hey, I'm Chris Swink. I'm the co-founder and publisher of Technically the News organization with the community of technologists and entrepreneurs whose microphone just went out, so I'm using the MacBook audio. Sorry, listeners at home. There are entrepreneurial activities, innovation, technology, science, work alike, happening everywhere in the 50 United States and states and territories, I should add. We want to prove it a little bit. We at Technically have, last year we launched Technically/Ecosystems, the first gathering of reported summaries of state-level activity, which incorporated lots of regional ecosystems around the country. We got our first narrative together, and we tried our best. Real reporting, pulled from data and conversations, but of course it was incomplete. We want to update it. In part of that exercise, I've enlisted help. My Builders Live co-host, Victor Hwang of Right to Start, Taylor Eubanks of the Midwest. Our dear colleague, Rayma Henderson, can't be here for some personal reasons, so shout out to Rayma. Here's what we're going to do, Victor and Taylor. I have an incredible challenge for you. We got 40 minutes. We got 50 states and at least Puerto Rico. I want to see if we're able to go through all of those with at least a hat tip at the activity taking place everywhere. You're going to help send us down the rabbit hole of improving our ecosystem summaries. Victor and Taylor, first off, thank you for being here. And are you up to the challenge?
Absolutely.
Up for the challenge. Chris Wink, you continue to raise the bar for us.
Look, if I'm going to have Victor calling in internationally, if I'm going to have Taylor traveling the world to find the best of innovation and entrepreneurial support, we got to put it on wax. So that's what we're here to do. All right. Here's how I think we can do this, Victor and Taylor. We've done some homework, but I want us to go in chronological order of these 50 U.S. states and Puerto Rico and shout out what we can. In alphabetical order. Sorry, alphabetical order.
Chronological would be amazing.
Yeah. Well, Delaware, the first state, shout out. We're going to go through alphabetical order, and limited time means at some point we just have to shout out. We'll go deeper, of course, in the follow-up story and in our ecosystems update. But would you start me off? Here, I'll even model behavior because our dear colleague, Rayma Henderson, who is not here but was going to be, hails from the great state of Alabama. Alabama, I've spent time, is a fascinating state, kind of 3 regional ecosystems and lots more in rural communities. But Alabama has a statewide strategy, Innovate Alabama, which had fits and starts. Shout out Innovate Alabama. But at the regional ecosystem level, from Birmingham and Mobile up to Montgomery, one of the densest collections of computer science grads and PhDs in the country, ton of work coming around aerospace and health tech. Alabama has tons. Birmingham is what I know best. Shout out. There's a lot to look at for Alabama. We won't be able to go as deep in every state, but I wonder if we could do a thing like that. Shout out some who's or some what's. And I'm wondering, Victor, if you could take the torch from me, because I think if I'm doing my alphabet right, next up is a tall order. It's the ever looming grand state of Alaska.
Great state of Alaska. It is the one state where an active member of the ecosystem building community for startup ecosystem building, Kai Holland, got elected to public office.
Interesting.
State representative Kai Holland, representative. Shout out to him. He's been moving entrepreneurship legislation and trying to strengthen the entrepreneurship economy in the state of Alaska.
Boom. I wish I had a bell. You make me want to have a bell. All right. Boom. Alaska. Could you do Arizona, Victor?
Arizona, ASU has been a great leader, ranked the most innovative university in America. We've got a great ambassador out there, Chris Yu for Right to Start, who's been an entrepreneur who's been doing some great work, and a former state senator, Steve Kaiser, who helped us introduce a bill to help entrepreneurs and continues to fight for entrepreneurship.
Taylor, I wonder if I could throw Arkansas to you, because Arkansas would come up next. If not, I mean, what we know about Arkansas, a real investment coming out of Bentonville because of Walmart's corporate origins, but we've come across statewide organizing around Arkansas. So a ton typically tied to its corporate anchors, but there's increasingly an effort to tie it to entrepreneurship as well. How about this, Taylor? What if I throw the next 2 kind of West Coasty ones at Victor, and then I come back around
I feel like it's not appropriate to not give Victor Arkansas. Like, that's like your team. You have so much of your team there. Like Kim Lane is Arkansas. Like, I feel like Victor.
Kim Lane is Arkansas. Ms.
Kim
Arkansas.
Lane is Arkansas.
Yes, crown her now. Yeah, you got to talk about Arkansas.
Kim Lane
has got some weight there.
Kim's amazing. She is our chief operating officer for Right to Start. She is also the executive director of our campaign for America the Entrepreneurial. We're also working with former Governor Asa Hutchinson, who's been a phenomenal member of our phenomenal colleague and member of our team, and supporting work with governors to help them support entrepreneurship. And a number of people from Damara Baker, who has been leading our state coalition work out there, to the funders like at the Walmart, Walton Family Foundation, Elin Lai, and then Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation, Madoff Schroff have just been phenomenal partners and supporters for us. Love Arkansas. Woo pig.
I was going to say, whatever vitamins you take, Victor, I need it. For memory, for all of that, those names, you just got it. Go, go, go.
Inspiring. All right. So then in speed, I'm going to keep on you, Victor, for a sec, because then we'll move to some mid-Atlantic that might be my territory. And then I'm going to hit some Midwesty ones that I have to come to you, Taylor.
Yeah.
All right. So Victor, I worry that we sometimes dismiss the great state of California and ecosystem building because we're so often like, forget about the big dog. I think that's foolish. So will you please ring the bell for California?
California's got some entrepreneurship stuff going on. I'm going to
heard
shout out to Claire Whitmer. Claire Whitmer is the deputy director of the California Office for Small Business, and she has been the co-chair of our Public Officials Network, the National Entrepreneurship Leaders Network, and has been very active in that. She recently spoke at a network meeting. And then we've got a state coalition manager, Cameron Law, and our advocate, Jamie Ross, on the ground, just doing great work and organizing out in Sacramento. So phenomenal work happening in California.
All right, keep it going. Another state that has gotten deeply entwined to one of the big dogs. Shout out Colorado.
Colorado? Who's doing Colorado?
You.
That's you.
Me.
I'm just staying with you for a second. Then I'm going to take some Mid-Atlantic ones.
Oh, gosh. Brad Feld, who's a member of our National Advisory Council, he's been great for us, and he also has been helping us with Governor Jared Polis, who's been an entrepreneur himself, who's been very strong in entrepreneurship. He was the first governor to reduce the cost of doing business in Colorado in a state to $1, and it saw a 30% rise in entrepreneurial activity in the state. And then our ambassador, Cecilia Harry, down in Colorado Springs, has just been a great leader in economic development and entrepreneurship support.
Incredible. All right, I'm going to keep it going. I'm going to go to tiny Connecticut comes next. Obviously, so much of its state comes out of New York Metro, but there's Southwest Tech Hub. There is Finance Hub too. Connecticut is doing on-the-ground ecosystem building. It's still super nascent and want to see more of it. Ding. I'm going to Delaware. We technically have reported in Delaware for more than 15 years. Delaware Governor Matt Meyer, friend of the show, been on this program before, himself an entrepreneur, doing a lot of leadership work too. Delaware has strengths out of the Philadelphia metro region, but its southern portion, relatively rural, has real ag tech. It has a lot more to do, though. So we'll go to D. Keep D going. The District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., an incredible dynamic regional economy, but is obviously heavily influenced by the state of federal government at any given time. We have seen in almost 18 years of technically reporting a real revival of genuine in-city entrepreneurship. DC's strength is also its challenge. Maryland and Virginia states hubbing it, incredible activity. So the big question of DC is how much can it keep cross-jurisdictional leadership? And I know on the ground there's considerable work happening there. We would go alphabetically next to Florida and Georgia, which I'd thrown to Rayma. Taylor, I wonder if you want to step in there, or do you want me to help? Should I fill in there for Rayma? What do you think, Taylor? You have any words to say on Florida or Georgia?
Yeah, Florida. My gosh, what a SBDC market in Mecca. They have a phenomenal network there. I often say that SBDC networks are not all created equal. Florida does a great job of championing it. And they have a new Office of Entrepreneurship, I believe, as of last year or the year before. Is that right, Victor?
Oh, interesting.
They do have quite a bit of entrepreneurship activity in Florida as well. Yeah.
Florida is one of these states that we have, enormous geographic states, and then also have just so many meaningful hubs. Miami, Tampa, Tallahassee, those all have ecosystem level work and more. Orlando, we've done work in Orlando. So much happening there. So Florida's a giant.
Oh yeah. And then you have that Florida-Georgia line. It's not only my favorite country group. It's a very real thing. So when I think of logistics, when I think of, imports, exports, Atlanta really just holds it down. But from a tech ecosystem standpoint, there in Georgia, they're doing so much really cool work also with EcoMap that they've started doing too. But Georgia's, putting a lot of us to shame still. They're doing
one of those really cool Atlanta is such a success, but still has real statewide organizing to do, which we've done some reporting on, no doubt, that Atlanta does need statewide identity. Let's hit some Midwestern ones come up next. The I's are all your territory, Taylor. Illinois is super interesting, has real dense urbanity and real rural. Can you touch on Illinois?
Illinois, so Chicago holding it down. When I think of Illinois, P33, if you don't know about P33, they come to mind. They have a new Big Bets initiative. I don't know if it's new, but it's new to me. And they're really leaning in on quantum technology for small businesses. So that's been really, really cool to see. As well as World Business Chicago, a lot of good coming out of there for small businesses in their founders exchange, paying for founders to go to different conferences and things around the nation. So it's been really cool to watch Illinois.
Can you keep it going with Indiana?
Yeah, Indiana, biomanufacturing. So Indiana, always think of the, what is it? The GIN, Global
Entrepreneurship Congress happened last year in Indianapolis. The first time it was back in the United States since John and Oregon.
I learned so much about Indiana during that time. And one of the coolest things that I think that came out of that time for me was their approach to sports and economic development. So engaging all of those sports teams as engines for their small businesses, but being intentional about the economic impact it can create.
And while you're shouting out Right to Start teammates, of course, Morgan Allen, deeply involved in Indiana economic development, and came over. The Right to Start team is everywhere. All right, we got to keep it going, despite the IEDC's great work there. Can you touch on Iowa, Taylor?
Absolutely. Ag tech. What else? Ag tech. Way to hold it down. So in Iowa, really great ag tech. Midwest versus the Rest is based out of Iowa. They're a social media platform that does a great job amplifying just good across the Midwest, who we are, what we are. But ag tech is really, really anchored out of Iowa for us.
Now, I don't know if you're familiar with this state, Taylor, but I wonder if you could touch on the K that is Kansas.
Absolutely. My heart, Kansas. So here in Kansas, we have some of the best, I'd say, but we do a great job on being the animal health corridor. We really are heavyweights with animal health. I met a toxicology business recently. So we have some great anchors. I'm actually wearing a Kansas State University shirt right now. So ag is really true to who we are, but animal health, being the animal health corridor, is what we pride ourselves on for sure. We have huge and very prominent anchors such as Network Kansas. We have down in Wichita, Nexus. We have the Patterson Family Foundation, and we also have more community foundations than any other state. There's like over 100 community foundations here or something, and I think there's like 900 in the nation. Don't quote me on the numbers. But
we're literally actively quoting you, but I'll
okay. Don't do that. We have a community foundation summit every single year, and somebody told me the other day that they come here to learn the way to be strong community foundations because we have so many. So yeah, that's Kansas.
Can you keep up the K's and touch Kentucky, or are you gonna?
Yeah, absolutely. Kentucky. Think of Kentucky health, horses. What are the other H's? I don't know. But the innovation zone that they have there in Kentucky, really promising momentum. Help me out here.
Doing a lot of activity.
Yeah.
With the folks in Lexington. All right,
I think a growing tech presence is another element for Kentucky. They're not massive yet, but it is something that they're working through.
I'm gonna take the L's that bring us down south. Louisiana technically expanded there earlier this year, so feel as well as anyone to touch on Louisiana's fascinating category is we also get some more shout outs here for you, Taylor. Louisiana has the I-20, I-10 corridor, which is a really interesting dynamic. Most of the 55 or so parishes in Louisiana are rural, but New Orleans is an incredible gateway. Everyone loves New Orleans, but how much happens at the state level at Baton Rouge? Shout out to Nexus, Louisiana, particularly we do a lot of work with, and up to I-20 corridor of Shreveport. There's a real dynamic there of a relatively small, relatively poor state. How do we do innovation? There's real leadership using entrepreneurship as the center of that engagement. I now got to fly up to Maine to shout out the bioforestry hub. Aaron Weiskittle, shout out, PhD leader of doing bioforestry work, doing products coming out of Maine's forests. Katie Shorey, Startup Maine, doing a lot of great organizing there at the entrepreneurship level. You know that in Maine. Let me touch on Maryland. I've spent probably Maryland is the second most time I've ever spent in and around an entrepreneurial ecosystem. Baltimore, very close to my heart, but technically expanded there 18 years ago. This is an incredibly resilient city, Baltimore, but the state is fascinating. Governor Wes Moore, as you shouted out, Victor, gets a lot of real leadership and real credit as his assistant lieutenant governor. But there's a real dynamic here using the strength of TEDCO, statewide, state-backed agency, very worth copying around the country, how state dollars used for economic development and funding. But we got to keep going, and I want to throw over from very brainy Maryland to another very brainy state, Massachusetts. And I believe a very young Victor once spent time in the state of Massachusetts. So, Victor, I'm wondering if you could help me out.
I'm still young, but thank you for that. One of our board members is out there, Sarah Biller, who leads and created the Boston FinTech Week, and she's been a phenomenal leader in the innovation ecosystem there. She's been a close advisor of Governor Maura Healey, who's been a strong proponent of entrepreneurship. And we have an ambassador, Mark Newberg, who is a great leader in the social impact world. He helped previous White House write their social impact policy, and he's been doing work with a lot of startups in Massachusetts. Of course, Massachusetts has just been a phenomenal startup ecosystem and continues to have leadership there as well.
Can we swing back over to the Midwest, Michigan and Minnesota, Taylor? Can you hit us with two M's in the Midwest?
Absolutely. So Michigan, we always think of the auto manufacturing legacy. But what I've been really impressed with is their new maritime strategy. So when you think about the Midwest, you're not thinking boats, you're not thinking, but we should be thinking water innovation. And who I've really seen do this very, very well is a new organization to the US, but now has base in Detroit, Aqua Action. Really, really cool stuff for entrepreneurs in the in the water space, but innovating.
Watch this space.
Approaches to water. Yeah.
All right, Minnesota. Lots happening in Minnesota.
Oh yeah, I gotta keep going. Minnesota. So Minnesota, I don't think med tech, but a lot of med tech coming out of that space. Food, insurance, Twin Cities. But one conference that I just went to and was wildly impressed, Angel Fest. It used to be just a hyper localized activation, but it was nationwide focused this year. So Groove Capital leads that. Great opportunities for both existing and aspiring angel investors. So great time there.
I've been alerted to a fact check by my dearest of colleagues, Victor Hwang. I've managed to skip 2 letters entirely. Can we loop back alphabetically? Can you touch on one of the great island systems of the world, Hawaii, Victor, and talk to me a bit about entrepreneurial activity there?
Are you not singing the song in your head? We all know the alphabet song. Come on.
I don't even know how I did that.
Right. We got the 50 Nifty song going on. Yeah. Hawaii, just a shout out to Senator Glenn Wakai, who's been actually very active in introducing pro-entrepreneur legislation in the state, and then Representative Justin Woodson in Hawaii, who actually is a native of Topeka, Kansas, but made Hawaii.
It all comes back to the center, Kansas.
everything goes back to Topeka, and we have an ambassador, Sandra Fujiyama, who leads the Asian Pacific Legal Entrepreneurship Center, and has been a very strong supporter of entrepreneurship work in Hawaii. So we're looking for an excuse to do a team retreat out there at some point in my organization.
I'll be there. Can we keep it going to I, and then I'll loop back to the actual alphabet? Idaho, I skipped, even though we know the great people at the Idaho Tech Association. What else you got in Idaho, Victor?
Idaho's, of course, so much going on in technology in Idaho. A great thank you and a memorial to the late Governor Dirk Kempthorne, who actually has been really supportive of our work at Right to Start. He attended a gathering we had last year. He just passed away a few months ago, unfortunately. A great American. He was a mayor. He was a governor. He was a secretary of the Interior. He kind of was a great American in serving the public in so many ways, and a great supporter of entrepreneurship. So thank you, Governor Kempthorne. And then we have an ambassador there, Diane Temple, who leads a lot of the innovation work in Idaho, and she's just been phenomenal to work with.
Idaho Tech Association, and she often points out, Diane points out, Micron story, which has gotten recently a lot of attention, given its semiconductor roots, that has some activity to entrepreneurial activity, though there's a lot to be had. All right. Sorry for that, Victor. Thank you for keeping me honest on how the alphabet works. That's the ultimate gauge.
Somebody has to do it.
Somebody's got to do it. All right.
Somebody's gotta keep you honest, Chris.
Somebody's got to. Who keeps the auditors audited? Rayma, if she was here, would have shout out Mississippi. I'll run with it for a sec. Mississippi is a really interesting case story. Innovate Mississippi is doing important work, but it's constrained by lots of ways. Mississippi, in a lot of indices we follow technically has fallen behind many gaps, but there's work being done at Innovate Mississippi. Jackson has really interesting work. HBCUs. Victor, do you want to touch on anything in Mississippi that you're seeing?
We have a new ambassador that joined us, Tasha Bibb at Mississippi State University, and she's been really active. She used to be the director of entrepreneurial development at Innovate Mississippi, and we've just loved working with her. She's just come on board.
Incredible. All right, Taylor, will you touch Missouri for a sec?
Yep, absolutely. We talked about the Twin Cities up in Minnesota, but same thing down here in Missouri. We have St. Louis and Kansas City. So they really, separate our state in those two cities. A lot of entrepreneurial action and growth happening in St. Louis. On the Kansas City side, we actually have the Right to Start Coalition. Did I say that right, Victor?
Starters Coalition.
The Starters Coalition event, and the Office of Entrepreneurship led by Tasia Gordon. We have an event tonight, actually. So really, really great engagement on the Missouri side. And I think they model a lot of what we can do here on the Kansas side. Get a policy in place for Office of Entrepreneurship, put a person in charge of that thing, and then actually follow it up with true action. So they've been doing great work there in Missouri.
I'll take a pass at Big Sky Country, Montana, a central to my childhood imagination, I'll point out. Some of my first road trips and hitchhiking was done in Great Montana, but also spent time professionally there too. Has a really dynamic tech hub focused on the photonics, led by Tim Van Recken. Shout out Tim. He's doing real on the ground organizing across a very big state that includes both tribal communities and tribal colleges, and a state very divided between increasingly expensive places to live around Bozeman because of some Silicon Valley expats, and some real deep poverty, real work around what that economy is going to look like. There's questions about how do you build housing in a place with so much federal land. Montana, one of the most beautiful, dynamic places we have in our country, but has real work to be done with entrepreneurship at its center. Not so far away, I guess I'm spanning from the Mountain West back to the Midwest. Taylor, touch on Nebraska for us.
Yeah, I was actually just sent something really cool. So the Silicon Prairie, as we call it, but they have a really cool act, the Oklahoma Small Business Incubators Incentive Act. Have either of you heard of this?
And that's in Nebraska.
Oh my goodness! I just skipped to Oklahoma.
Run with it then. You can run with it for a sec, but yeah, we're
this is super
Nebraska.
Funny. And
We'll rock
Oklahoma. this act enables tenants of certified incubation facilities to be exempt from state tax liability on income earned. So as entrepreneurs are going back and reporting their yearly metrics, they can do this for 10 years back to their incubator or the ESO that they're working with. And they will have that tax exemption for 10 years. So I just got a text, please shout this out. So that was actually really cool. But for Nebraska, our
reader engagement is happening. Well, then you got to finish Oklahoma then for a second. Okay. The ton that's happening there. Victor, can you shout out? You've done some particularly prominent work in Oklahoma. We're going to finish Oklahoma and then we'll go back to Nebraska.
Oklahoma, very proud to be have worked with both Governor Kevin Stitt, who is the current chair of the National Governors Association, and the recent outgoing president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, the mayor of Oklahoma City, David Holt. Worked very closely with both of them. They both decided at the same time to put entrepreneurship on as their pet issue, which is a phenomenal sort of convergence of things, and has really put entrepreneurship on the map with governors and mayors across the country. Great shout out to our ambassador and a great ecosystem builder, Cecilia Wessinger. She's been involved in the eShip work at Kauffman. She's been involved with Startup Champions work. She's really been such a great model and enthusiastic supporter of entrepreneurship all across the board. So Oklahoma's just been great. And we've had state legislators there from Joanna Dossett and Daniel Pay, who have just been really strong advocates for our work, and an advocate out there, Janae Gooden in Oklahoma City, who's just been a delight to work with. And she hosted our team out there not that long ago when we did a team retreat and had a wonderful visit to Oklahoma City and Tulsa. So Oklahoma, love Oklahoma, big fan.
And as a tech hub out of Tulsa Innovation Lab, and I'll note, featured prominently in our last episode on the role philanthropy can play in economic development, Oklahoma alongside Kansas and a little bit Missouri end up looking like really prominent examples of can a very centralized power, very influential set of dollars jumpstart something that can then become more of a shared resource. Really interesting case study. All right, keeping you honest now, Taylor, bring us back to Nebraska.
I need it. Yeah, Nebraska. So was reading the Deal Room Index, and Lincoln made the largest jump of any city on the entire list this year, up 53 spots to 214th, I believe, on the global champions. And so they're seeing something. They're doing something there in Nebraska. Omaha 100 is also a phenomenal organization. CDFI, they're doing some great ecosystem work. Really enjoyed watching what Nebraska's doing. Not in football. Just in entrepreneurship.
And shout out to Silicon Prairie News, an affiliate of Technically, so we do some great reporting there. Yeah. Shout out Nebraska. All right, Victor, can you touch on Nevada for us? I always say it wrong, Nevada.
Nevada, not Nevada. They'll kill you for that.
Yeah,
Nevada.
Shaq gets me in trouble for that. Sorry, Shaq.
Shaq, yeah. The Nevada was the first state to pass a Right to Start Act, creating an official Office of Entrepreneurship in the state. The bill was originally sponsored by the Speaker of the Assembly, Steve Yeager, who has been this tireless champion for entrepreneurship, and we've been the governor out there, Lombardo, has been a great supporter, and very grateful to his work out there. And then the Office of Entrepreneurship that was created out of there has been led by Melissa Saavedra, and then Shaq Cruz, the deputy, as you mentioned, has been they've just been tireless champions and advocates for the work. Ambassadors, we have two ambassadors for Right to Start in Nevada. Doug Irwin, who was a longtime leader in the economic development world in Nevada, and Heather Brown, who has been a great leader in the Las Vegas startup scene and the startup ecosystem work. So we've been able to cover both the western part and the southern part of Nevada with that great leadership. So it's really an exciting state, and it's one thing I noticed about Nevada is just how well the state comes together to work on things. There's a really strong kind of western frontier vibe about the place where people just figure things out. So love Nevada.
The entrepreneurial mindset is very strong there for sure. And they have a phenomenal community college, Truckee Meadows Community College. Back in November, they actually started a small business and entrepreneurship skills certificate, which is really cool. I've been preaching to all of my community colleges and my technical schools, you need entrepreneurship curriculum on your on your side, it really, really can help you. And Truckee Meadows has done a great job. Gosh, it takes me back to my Tesla days. They also do great at charging infrastructure partnerships for apprenticeships, but they do a great job on entrepreneurship curriculum.
We're on the ends and we got 10 minutes to go, so I'm keeping us on it. New Hampshire, they have a regenerative medicine tech hub. It's Vermont without college, they used to joke. Sorry, that was an old joke in the old days. But New Hampshire has real on-the-ground ecosystem development work happening, including that tech hub. New Jersey, where I grew up, I think a marvelous state splintered between two big mega regions, New York Metro and Philadelphia region, split north and south. Incredible pharmaceutical roots. Shout out to Tech United, Aaron Price organizing. The challenge always is New Jersey. How do you get a statewide identity when you're split between two very distinct geographies, but incredible entrepreneurial work happening. We're doing more reporting there. Can you touch on New Mexico, Victor?
New Mexico, I've had a long-standing relationship with New Mexico and the entrepreneurial spirit there for a while. Elizabeth Kutila at the University of New Mexico really got involved with my previous work at the rainforest, and they built an entire building, and they called the whole effort around the university's innovation work the Rainforest Innovations System, which has been really cool and very flattering and a real honor. What they have also done is they've done a lot of work in actually pulling in communities that have been left out, including the Native American community and the creative communities. And so one of our ambassadors for Right to Start is Brianna Figueroa, who leads Creative Startups, which is the only incubator for the creative community. So for artists, and it actually was the first money into Meow Wolf, which has been a great leader in driving the creative arts as a high growth venture opportunity. And then Nora Sackett at the state has been a co-chair of our National Entrepreneurship Leaders Network. And then a shout out to Meredith Dixon, the state rep in New Mexico, who has been sponsoring and supporting entrepreneurship legislation for many years now.
Ding, ding, ding. I'm going to go through some ends of note. Perhaps you've heard of New York. You, one, cannot discount the importance and dynamism of New York City. And New York State has at least 3 other regions. They have 2. They have a semiconductors and an energy storage tech hub, and great work up in Buffalo. Shout out Dan Miner and Series B. Distinct regions. New York State's challenge is that it has a lot going, and how it's pulled together at the state level is still left to be desired. So I shout out to all of you, great ecosystem work. How do you also pull together at the state level? Speaking of state level, North Carolina doing some of the great work that is happening at the state level. So Research Triangle Park, we're doing a reporting series there, and Charlotte, a distinct region. But North Carolina as a state is thriving, that research and growth corridor, so much population growth. North Carolina is thriving and needs it. Another North, but a distinct one, North Dakota. Shout out to another tech hub, the Farms Ag Tech Engine, Holly Mackey's team. Incredibly important. We are seeing massive gains in agri-science investments. It is this kind of big, exciting moment that the Midwest will see, and North Dakota is among the leaders given its tech hub growth. Keeping it going to Ohio, Taylor.
Absolutely. As a Taylor, we have to give thanks for the place that gave us Travis Kelce. But past there, when you think of Cincinnati, Cleveland, Columbus, I think mega projects, but also the inclusion of intentional procurement, of engaging small businesses in those mega projects. So that's Ohio.
As you said,
Taylors get
Ohio
together, by the way. Is that a thing? Like Taylors hanging out with each other?
Yeah. You didn't know that?
Yeah.
Oh
my gosh, yeah.
The conference. We'll see you at the conference next time.
How do I get invited if I make Taylor my middle name?
Yes.
And you said it earlier, Taylor, Jobs Ohio, really big experiment, liquor tax, economic development. But the question is how much control can one incredibly powerful, important entity have? So Ohio has the tension. They do have incredible leadership, but it's very concentrated. But I'll get yelled at for that. Let's keep it going and go to Oregon, Victor, because we already did Oklahoma.
Oregon is really cool because, a lot of, you may know, it's the shoe innovation capital of America. It's where, the coolest shoes are coming out of. So they're actually building a shoe innovation district in Portland, which is so cool. And they're involving basically the entire supply chain of shoes to get involved in this. And so our ambassador for Right to Start, Dwayne Johnson, and Rose Kaz hosted me out there about a year and a half ago, and I got to see the shoot district and also just see all the really great work in Oregon happening around innovation and inclusion in entrepreneurship.
Pennsylvania, Keystone State, my home state, distinct for its both kind of two very different, very distant cities. Philadelphia, where I call home, one of the biggest, most dynamic regions, but suffered from real poverty and indecision. How does Philadelphia live up to its promise? Incredible ecosystem work, very important mega region. Life sciences has a real cluster. The mRNA research that got you the Nobel Prize winning COVID vaccine comes out of Philadelphia Research Labs. The other side of the state, Pittsburgh, so meaningful. Duolingo, perhaps you know, Gecko Robotics, they've had an Astrobiotic, Aurora Technology doing driverless trucks, handful of unicorns that have come out of Pittsburgh's very vibrant entrepreneurial ecosystem. And the rest of Pennsylvania has real dynamism. They have a state-backed system, the Ben Franklin Technology Partner System, that does work in Erie in the Northeast, but it's much less an earlier stage. We got to keep it going. So I'm going to go to Puerto Rico. Ramo was going to touch on Puerto Rico. I don't know if anyone wants to jump in, but Invest Puerto Rico, doing real organizing. San Juan is very dynamic, but this is a commonwealth, that a territory that gets very stuck in between how federal policy works, but strongly recommend it. Rhode Island, and then I'm going to hand over to South Carolina, hope to someone else. I'll touch on Rhode Island, again, part of that New England hub of states that are getting some on-the-ground entrepreneurial organizing. It has not yet gotten all of the statewide backing that it should, but its university systems are taking it seriously. South Carolina was going to be Rama's. There's great organizing happening in South Carolina. Shout out to Aaron Taylor and others doing real startup ecosystem work in South Carolina. It's a relatively small state wedged between very large ones. So can its entrepreneurial ecosystem work escape that? That I think is South Carolina's challenge. I took North Dakota. Victor, you want to take South Dakota?
Shout out to State Senator Tim Reed, who recently introduced some entrepreneurship legislation, and he's a new champion of this work, and with Right to Start, and we've just been really glad to be working with him.
Love that. Can we? Sorry, switching over. Tennessee. Do you want to touch on Tennessee, Taylor?
Sure. When I think Tennessee, I think very booming entrepreneurial ecosystems, but highly, highly competitive. So from music to health to logistics, definitely a space that you can start, but the competition is very dense. I just think of the dense spaces.
Its lesson for ecosystems is Startup Tennessee, which is one strategy that we've seen now in a few states where there's some state authorized dollars. This is happening a little bit in Kentucky too, that we should have shouted out, but state dollars then divvied out to regional hubs. So Chattanooga and Memphis are trying to do things alongside big booming Nashville. Just what you said, Taylor, really great on the ground ecosystem work, but can it happening at a consistent scale? Can it get the buy-in at the state level consistently? We are limited in time, but we can't ignore the giant Texas. Something like 1 in 5 Americans who moved somewhere in the last 5 years went to Texas. There's at least a half dozen regions growing inside that state. So dynamic and important right now. Its tension is American writ large, put down to the small level. Politics and partisanship and economic dynamism. Can housing keep being built in Austin so the affordability can remain or not? Texas is so important. It is put up against California. It should, but we're limited on time, so we'll just know there's a half dozen regions. I'm going to keep it going to Utah. Can you touch on Utah, Victor?
Governor Spencer Cox has been one of the great supporters of entrepreneurship in America. He's always looking for ways to improve and streamline and strengthen the entrepreneurial process. So shout out to Governor Cox.
Vermont has some tech hub and university activity taking place, relatively small, relatively distant. It has a talent attraction challenge it needs to work on. That's its focus there. Virginia is something different for our next V. Virginia has very different and distinct regions. Northern Virginia, obviously now become well known for data centers, but because of its outside DC region, is one of the most dynamically important parts of our country. But Richmond is a region. Shout out to Deb Irwin. Richmond also has a tech hub. It's incredibly dynamic work. Pharmaceuticals being done at scale with innovation. Fascinating. There's rural regions. It's statewide identity, not pulled together there yet. So it has a lot of individual regions doing work. Blacksburg, Virginia as well. Virginia Tech. But how does it get pulled at a state level? It is not there yet. That's its weakness. Washington. Would you touch on Washington, Victor?
When I drove through my road trip from LA to DC about a year and a half ago, our ambassador, Rebecca Lovell, hosted a gathering for me in Washington. And I was thrilled to see that work. Rebecca has just been a great champion for entrepreneurship in so many different ways for many, many years. Former reporter as well. And now she is helping run the Greater Seattle Partnership. And so that's connecting kind of old school economic development with new school economic development, supporting entrepreneurs, pulling them into the partnerships that help grow Seattle long term.
It's emotional, Victor. I get it. We have 3 W's on the way out, and I'm wondering if Taylor, if you could help us, and we'll add colored commentary.
Absolutely. West Virginia, the synergies between aligning state and university efforts to build entrepreneurial initiatives, narratives, and ecosystem, really well done in West Virginia. Wisconsin, biohealth, again, and manufacturing. University research and industrial R&D, great in Wisconsin. Wyoming, energy, tourism. I'm trying to think what else.
I'll plus one you there, Taylor, that to almost like wrap us up as we go to final close. West Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming each kind of represent something that we hit on in this hour. Wisconsin is among these states. It's kind of like an Indiana, sorry, don't yell at me, that there's like very strong economic development work that is beginning to take on entrepreneurship. It's still early. There's strong university doing real cutting edge research, but how seriously is the entrepreneurial work being taken at the leadership level? We're going to see. West Virginia does have some very real organizers, many, Mark Burdett, so many that we can shout out that are doing very real organizing work, but it's still trying to get the attention and buy-in of a state that has been relatively poor and relatively energy focused. Wyoming, maybe I'll get myself yelled at, but still very early. When we look at indices, it's perhaps one of the 2 to 3 states that have the least happening at the leadership level. There's great organizing happening at local levels. Don't yell at me too much, Silicon Collier, and a statewide entity whose name I'm going to forget is doing work, but it's still very nascent. Wyoming risks falling behind. And so I look at those 3 states, West Virginia doing the work, but has to get attention. Wisconsin, very serious and established, but is it always seen as an afterthought? Big boy economic development. They still do a lot of traditional stuff. Wyoming, not doing much at all. Does it risk being fall behind? And so Victor and Taylor, before I close this out, first off, holy heck, we did it. We're at time. We went through all 50 states and a territory and touched on all of them. I wonder with that zoom out, send me out with kind of your like thoughts about having just done that, zip through them. What are you thinking about? Maybe I'll throw to you, Taylor, and then I'll go to Victor. Taylor, what's in your head here about what stood out to you by doing that?
Absolutely. Oftentimes when I'm talking with states or leaders in the public sector, we're approaching entrepreneurial problems, challenges, opportunities in a tunnel. It's happening everywhere. None of these problems or opportunities are unique to us. And sometimes it just takes looking across that state line, looking across the region to see how it's being done. So that's the thing that stands out the most here. There's a lot of synergies. So how do we solve this by not recreating the wheel, but reaching across? So I think this was a really, really good representation of that.
Victor.
The movement is real. This is the kind of things we're able to talk about across all 50 states, plus the districts and territories. We couldn't say that even just a few years ago. You can actually point to real on-the-ground change that's happening, where there's people that care about the issue, that are championing it, entrepreneurship and innovation, whether it's at the grass tops or the grassroots. You're seeing that connection happening. And so it really is I think it's still early days, but it really is the growth of a movement that is starting to take on a real force and driving change. So it's exciting to see, because I've seen it before when, we had to fight to get attention, and now we're actually starting to get some real attention on this issue, which is really exciting. And wonderful.
We just spent close to an hour looking at entrepreneurial activity taking place across the United States, and the only trouble we had was that we didn't have enough time. That, as you just said, Victor and Taylor, whether it's happening at your regional, local level with a local organizer organizing a meetup, or it's taking place at a state level, it is happening in your state. And if you're in any region or county of note, something is taking place. Whether you know it or not is an entirely different matter. You may very well be the person doing it in your community. So to that, we say you've very much joined a movement. Thank you so much for being here for this recording of Builders Live. A full recap will end up in Technically as always, and this will help inform an overhaul of Technically/ecosystems, which we're trying to keep track as the most comprehensive summary of state level activity around entrepreneurship and regional ecosystem building in narrative form. That's what we do at Technically. We're a news organization covering entrepreneurial and innovation ecosystems. Thanks for giving us the chance and the time. Victor and Taylor, we'll see you next time.
Amazing. Thanks, guys.
Great
Bye,
job.
everybody. See ya.